Hey everyone, Emily with Bob's Watches. I'm back with Justin and Ripley to go through our 5 favorite watches of the week. We definitely have a theme going on this week. We're talking about white gold watches.
Also, if you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can stay up to date on our latest video content.
You know what's coming up first? A wrist check. Justin, why don't you kick it off?
Today, the White Dial Explorer 2.
Ooh, love it.
Love
Classic.
it. Yep, love a good white dial.
Can't go wrong. What are you wearing?
I'm wearing a 42mm Planet Ocean, and this is one of the newer ones with the caliber 8500 in it, and with the orange bezel, because just that's the color of the Planet Ocean.
Planet Ocean all the way?
Yeah, Planet Ocean, full
Big
Planet
fan.
Ocean.
Yeah.
Looks really good. I'm doing 40mm Day-Date. You know I can't go wrong with a Roman dial. All right, so like we mentioned, we're going over some white gold watches this week. There's definitely that stealth wealth trend, so we've got to kick it off with a white gold GMT-Master II.
So white gold GMT, this is the top of the line of the GMT model. This isn't actually the current production one though. As you'll notice, it has a black dial. So the white gold Pepsi GMTs first started in 2014. That was the first instance of a Pepsi bezel being done in ceramic.
Very long awaited, right? I mean,
yeah.
This was a highly anticipated watch back then.
It was. The Batman had appeared 1 year prior, 2013.
Right.
People didn't think we were going to get a split color bezel the following year, and let alone in the original color of it. So
Right.
we got the Pepsi, but only in white gold, so very exclusive offering. Now 2018 is when Rolex released the steel Pepsi. With the release of the steel one, granted on a Jubilee bracelet, they then changed the dial for the 116719 BLRO to dark blue, like how it is today. 1 year later in 2019, they discontinued this reference altogether entirely. And so in that, they did the blue dial version of this watch for less than a year and offered owners of the black dial the option to exchange for a blue. A lot of people did, and so initially people thought the blue dial 116719s were going to be the collectible ones, but now that they're still making blue dial white gold Pepsi GMTs, it's actually these older ones that were only produced for a few years between 2014 and 2018, with that they have the black dial in white gold, that are now kind of few and far between. And now with the current release of the steel Pepsi on an Oyster, this looks almost the same, but is solid 18 karat white gold. And you'll notice the bezel isn't quite as bright blue and red. It's a little bit more muted, as is customary for the early iterations of the Pepsi bezel.
It is, yeah. And that's one thing I don't like as much about this version. When it came out, it's more of a personal opinion on color, but it's more of a matted, subdued color on the blue and red. And personally, I like that punchy, punchy bright blue and red. And this one, it just didn't really do it for me. So
I'm almost the opposite.
Yeah. See, exactly.
I'm with Ripley.
Yeah,
Isn't that
so
funny?
I like the punchy red and blue, but with steel. Steel has that more bluish quality to it, and I think it really works well with a more vibrant bezel. White gold has that almost brassy, more warm tone.
Warm color.
And I think the sort of muted colors of the bezel, and I hear the reason for that is to do this split color. It's a single piece of ceramic, so there's actually a tiny bit of blue in the red and a little bit of red of the blue, and that's how it works out. And so that's why the red kind of airs a bit purple, as does the blue. It's because they have a bit of shared chemicals in there. But I think it works well with a brassier case, having the muted colors. It kind of creates this more warmer, washed out, I don't want to say vintage vibe because it's a very modern watch, but I kind of like the muted bezel on the white gold version.
Either way, the Pepsi on the ceramic bezel is awesome. I mean, we've been waiting for that since the ceramics came out. And, you know, this was the first version of it. It was really exciting. And till this day, it's a great watch.
It is, and now that you're able to get a steel version of the watch that almost looks the same, and a lot of these now have blue dials, it'd be really interesting to see actually how many of these initial white gold 116719 BLROs are out in the wild. But I'm happy we have one here and happy to feature it in our white gold showcase today.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Interesting piece.
It's a great one. I'm gonna scooch this one off to the side so we can take a nice look at this Daytona. You can see we've got the Arabic dial. What else is going on with it, Ripley?
Well, also white gold, solid white gold case
course.
bezel bracelet. It's the 116509, so this is actually a reference that you can still get in Rolex's catalog. The big difference is you can't get this configuration anymore. You can still get a white gold Daytona, and not just the one on the Oyster Flex with the Serichrome bezel. You can still get a white gold Daytona with a white gold Oyster bracelet and a white gold bezel. But now there's no Arabic numerals. You can either have a dial with diamond indices or one with the classic, Daytona lume-filled kind of sticks there. So this is a really unique one. There's a few different styles of the Arabic dial for these white gold Daytonas. This one's got red accents, but the Arabic numerals are black finished rather than being lume-filled. So it has this really striking contrast. We have the silvery dial, these pops of bright red, and then these jet black glossy big Arabic numerals on there. Personally, I like it because it doesn't look like a regular Daytona. If you have a steel Daytona, this is like one with a steel bezel, this is a way to keep that aesthetic, but getting something very, very different as far as what the dial and hands look like. But it's also something that only those in the know are going to be aware. They didn't ever do this dial for a steel one. So those that know Rolex are going to know that you've got a white gold watch on. Those that don't, it's a white metal chronograph.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect mix of that sporty and classy. I mean, it's a very sporty watch being the chronograph, and the white gold, it really kind of ups the elegance of it without being, diamond dial and gem set all around. Exactly. Yes. But it still has that, that really sporty look. And I like the Arabics on there too, because it lends to that sporty look with the Arabics and the red accents. And, just the whole package I think is great. It's, like I said, it's that perfect mix of like elegant and sporty, and it's done really well.
Yeah, and I think it's a hard line to walk because elegant and sporty are almost two polar opposites. And so something like the Daytona, where it does have these very purpose-built origins of the racetrack, this is solid white gold. This isn't, if you're worried about weight on as far as the car, this is not the watch to be wearing for it. But with the bright pops of red, it does allude to that sportier quality, despite being an overtly luxurious rendition of this watch.
Yeah.
Perfect for the award show after.
And when you actually look at the price of this watch compared to what the current production steel models are going for on the open market, it's a bargain. It's solid.
It's not a bad deal at all. Yeah,
it's a serious bargain. Yeah. And I believe we've got this on the site available right now, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
It is.
Yeah.
It is indeed. Well, I'm going to keep moving along. We're going to bring in a Day-Date.
So it is a Rolex Day-Date II. So it's not the Day-Date 40, it's the Day-Date II.
The big one.
Yes, the biggest Rolex President by 1 millimeter, but it actually looks a lot bigger than the Day-Date 40. Rolex needed a bigger President, so in 2008 they rolled out the Day-Date II. Had a 41 millimeter case diameter, quite large, quite imposing. Here's one of the iterations in white gold. By 2015 though, they changed it. They discontinued the Day-Date II altogether, switched it up to the Day-Date 40. 40 millimeters versus 41 on the case, and more than 1 millimeter if you actually look at it as far as the appearance. Sometimes 1 millimeter you can't really tell.
1 millimeter sounds like it's not that much bigger. When you hold them up, it's significantly larger.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with the proportions. They didn't just shrink the case by 1 millimeter, they refined the proportions to make the Day-Date 40 more of a larger version of the Day-Date 36 rather than a chunkier, almost sportier execution like this one.
Sure.
But the Rolex President is a statement piece. White gold would be the stealth wealth kind of take on it. But if you really want to flex with the stealth wealth, this is the biggest, most imposing Rolex President you can get. Given that the Day-Date 40 is kind of the de facto one, I think a lot of people miss the Day-Date II because it is noticeably bigger on the wrist, and because it was only done between 2008 2015, there actually aren't all that many examples compared to the current production model or the 36 millimeter references.
To me, it's a nice large size. It is a large size. There's no getting around that, but it's not overly large, it's not ridiculous looking, it's not uncomfortable to wear. It's a large size, but I think it's done really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean the President bracelet, you almost expect to see it in yellow gold. So going with a giant Rolex President here, but going in the non-obvious metal, again, one of those things. Those who know, those who don't, it doesn't scream that you're wearing a solid gold 41 millimeter watch on the wrist.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It does a little bit more than the GMT, and I like that about the President with the white gold, because you see it and you know it's not a stainless watch. I mean, there's no stainless day dates. You can see it, you know it's white gold or platinum, and it has that shape of the President bracelet, right? So they don't do that President bracelet in stainless steel. You know it's something different when you see it. You know it's not just a stainless dress watch.
Yeah, but only those who know. Like
exactly.
Yeah, if you saw a guy walking across
a random
the street
person,
from it, you might have. It could look like a fake Rolex or something like that. You just see steel 3-link design.
Yeah.
The immediate first thought is, oh, he's got a solid white gold Day-Date II.
Yeah.
But for those who want something that's a little bit more for themselves rather than showing it, but at the same time still wearing an undisputed luxury statement piece, I think this is a really solid contender.
It is. I like it. I like the dial color. I think it works really well with it. I like the Roman numerals. I'm sure Emily likes the Romans on this one.
You guys know me. I sure do.
Yeah, it's kind of like
concentric dial, though. It gets me, too.
You like the concentric dial?
I do.
Ridley?
I do. It's a subtle, like, standout.
Yeah, I'm big on textured dials, and I think anywhere where Rolex can put it in, I think I'm always a fan of it.
Yeah.
Adds a nice little pop, and because it is such a large face on there, it kind of helps fill in the
break it up
real
and
estate.
balance it. Yeah,
Totally.
and it's subtle. I like it. It's not the entire dial. It's not really busy. It's done nice.
It's definitely a great piece. But to leave room for another great one, I'm going to go ahead and bring in this Yacht-Master.
So this is a pretty new addition to Rolex's catalog. They only just launched the Yacht 42 at Basel World 2019. For me, that was probably the most unexpected release of the show. I was not expecting a larger Yacht-Master in white gold. It's very similar to the Everose version of this that's available in 37 and 40 millimeters, but you'll notice it's 42 rather than 40, white gold rather than Everose gold, and it's taken a fully kind of black and white monochromatic experience. There's no red Yacht-Master text or anything like that. It's really kind of the stealth wealth concept of the Yacht-Master collection, but it's the biggest Yacht-Master. It's the only one in white gold other than the Yacht-Master II, and it really doesn't look like any other watch in Rolex's current catalog.
Yeah, I like that. And I like the fact that they've gone with the oyster flex on it. And we've talked about the mix between, you know, sporty and elegant. And this has to be the epitome of that, right? I mean, the oyster flex strap is the most casual utilitarian strap that Rolex offers. And to put it on a solid gold Yacht-Master is kind of a nice move.
Yeah, and again, if you didn't know Rolex and you saw a guy wearing this across the street, you see a rubber strap, you see a black bezel, you see a white metal case, it doesn't scream luxury, but this is a $30,000 solid white gold Rolex.
Exactly.
Like, you know, it is very luxurious.
Yeah.
It's a Yacht-Master, so even the collection is more in the luxury leaning side of things, but by having a black ceramic insert, black oyster flex bracelet, it's a bit more sporty than many of the other executions, and I know a lot of people that are fans of it because precisely for that reason. It isn't, you know, embracing a warmer metal, it's not doing like a gold or platinum bezel insert, it's a bit more pared down, a bit more utilitarian, but not sacrificing anything when it comes to its luxury points.
It's a fine watch.
Just fine?
It's fine. I don't think that the oyster flex is really something I enjoy the most. I like it from a comfortability standpoint for sure.
It is very comfortable.
Yep,
Yeah.
it is. You can't deny it. But as a whole, from someone who enjoys gold watches, it's almost a little too subtle. Like I can't envision this being something that I'm instantly just drawn to for the day to pull out.
This is a big sleeper, right? I mean, it's very understated. So the fact that it's the white gold is really the only luxury screaming factor
If this
about
was a
it.
yellow gold watch, it would have a very different vibe.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm not the only one who would think if you put a oyster flex on a steel no-date sub, you'd probably have me as a buyer. So I agree. I would love to see the oyster flex on something that wasn't solid gold.
Yep.
At the present time, whether it's the Sky Dweller, the Yacht-Master, you're going to be getting a solid gold watch. But I think the lightweight nature of it would sing on stainless steel. And for something sporty where you're going to be out and doing active things like a Submariner,
Something like a dive watch.
yeah,
that's just made for it.
That might be perfect, especially with the glide lock. But
You get me. You get me.
but
This
until then, this is about the closest you can get. And if I had an extra 30 grand to drop,
of course.
and maybe a little bit bigger wrist, that would be a strong
I
contender.
agree. If it was
Size.
in stainless, I think I would be a buyer on it. I like the way it looks with the monochromatic theme that it has going on and the understated, like sporty, a little bit of elegance. But with the white gold, it adds a lot of premium to that price tag.
Yeah, we're almost looking at triple the sticker off of that. But here's the thing: it is slightly more attainable because if it was in steel price around 10 grand, you have 5-year wait list immediately. And
That's true. True price.
Yeah,
Yes.
it'd probably be about the same as the white gold.
Yep. Which makes it even more of a deal, just like the.
Just like the Daytona.
Exactly.
Well, it'll be interesting to see our picks at the end. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and bring in our final favorite of the week. Yes, this is white gold. Yes, this is a Datejust. What else can you tell us?
This might be the most stealth wealth watch on the table right now because the Day-Date is obviously a luxury. The Datejust, you can get in so many different executions that to get one in a white metal, especially one on a leather strap where I think probably the most distinguishable thing on a Rolex is either the Oyster Jubilee bracelet. This doesn't necessarily look like a Rolex at a glance. The fluted bezel, certainly. But you're probably not thinking a solid gold watch if you were to first see this on someone's wrist.
Not at all. And with the day-date, like you said, if you're in the know, you know it's white gold or platinum when you see the form. With this, there's a lot of Datejust that look very, very similar to this and are just stainless steel.
Yeah, talking about getting inside baseball, it's only when you start, oh, well, this one's got lug hood, so that means it was factory fitted with the leather strap, and they only did that on the solid gold executions. That's where you really start to figure out, oh, this is a very special Datejust. But at a glance, this could look like any, white Rolex edition with the fluted bezel, and the black strap is so nondescript. But what you're actually getting with this is a solid white gold Datejust from the previous generation. So it's got the 31-35 movement, new style case. This one still has the stickers on it, so it's, they discontinued these a few years back. They started to exist around the early mid-2000s, so you can't actually get a solid gold Datejust in any gold anymore. The biggest size they make is the mid-size 31, so this was the last 36 edition in the white gold. And an unusual thing about this is the hour markers are outlined in black like you'd have on your Explorer 2.
I love that. To me, this watch is just so clean. The white gold has a slightly different tone and color than the stainless. It has the lug hoods, the white dial, and those markers, which might be my favorite part of the watch. They're just so high contrast and clean and sharp. And I mean, the watch is just well executed and it's simple, but I say that in a good way.
Yeah.
It's simple and clean and beautiful.
I'm with you on that. Simple but thoughtful. I really think the contrast on the hour markers pairs perfectly with that strap. It's a beautiful watch.
It does. It's a great package.
Yeah, and I mean, Rolex has an interesting trend of doing high and low elements in some of these more luxurious watches. The white gold Daytona has these little pops of red on it. The white gold Yacht-Master has a black ceramic bezel insert. Well, the other Yacht-Masters have gold or platinum. This, instead of having, more luxury leaning hour markers, they're outlined in black, almost in a more sporty style.
Yep.
And so all these watches kind of have an interesting fusion of modern, almost sporty features blended with these really traditional, white gold cases, fluted bezels, leather straps. So I think it's a really interesting blend that they're not going entirely traditional and classic luxury with their luxurious watches. They're almost going more sporty than the steel editions. But what I think it makes for is a really striking appearance, because that doesn't look like another Datejust. It does at a glance, and then the more you start looking at it, the more you appreciate how many things are slightly different on it.
Yeah, there was a lot of thought and design that went into it, and it really shows.
Yeah, and if you have other Datejusts, more typical models, like something on an Oyster bracelet, two-tone Jubilee, this is a fantastic one to add to the collection that still keeps within the Datejust wheelhouse, but it is a solid white gold model. You're only going to find that within a handful of references from the Datejust family as a whole, and with this dial combination, it really is a unique offering.
It is.
I agree. Well, we've seen 5 standout watches, but I think it's time to pick our favorites. I'm still kind of deciding on mine. No, I'm not. I know which one is my favorite, but Ripley, I'll kind of kick this one off with you. What one are you taking? No budget.
I'm really tempted by the Yacht 42. I just don't think I could quite swing it on my wrist, but
from a size-wise?
Yeah. Okay. I think it'd just be a bit too large, and but I think a 40 millimeter white gold Pepsi might be my cup of tea. So yeah, I'll go for that version. I think it'll be really fun to own this watch now as the stainless steel ones on Oyster bracelets come out. So when you see a guy out there, he goes, "Oh, nice watch. It looks like we're wearing the same one," and you go, "Actually, mine's the white gold edition." Yeah, that's it.
A little one-up opportunity.
Yeah, I kind of would. I wouldn't hate that the first few times it happened.
Yeah.
So, first 10 times.
Yeah, that one would be me.
Love it, Justin.
I'm also very tempted by that white gold Yacht-Master.
Really?
Yes, and that's saying something, because the Yacht-Master isn't one of my favorite models from Rolex, but I think that's an amazing watch. But I do think it slightly gets edged out by that Daytona. It's just such a good looking watch, and I love the balance between the sporty and the elegance.
Yep.
I love a good chronograph. I mean, there's just so much. There's so much I like about this one.
Yep.
That is a good pick, because if you have that white gold Daytona and you want a Pepsi GMT, get the steel one. It'll be about a third of the price.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I am as predictable as ever, and yes, it is white gold, so that already hands it down. But the Day-Date, it's my pick. It's pretty much everything I want in a watch.
And it would be a great pairing with the one you currently have.
Right.
Two very different Roman dials, two very different larger. You've got a yellow gold Day-Date 40 there. You've got a white gold Day-Date II there. Both Roman dials, but you know, I believe we've talked about that one before. This is the older style, and it's kind of the yin yang pair of bigger day-date watches.
Exactly. And the size. So what about the size? That doesn't bother you at all? Someone with a smaller wrist?
Larger watches are definitely more my speed. I don't know if it's just because I want to make sure people see what's on my wrist, or no, I actually genuinely like that bigger pop. I would say smaller, just it's got to be the right time and the right occasion / outfit. But honestly, from a regular use standpoint, I like larger, and I don't think it would bug me in any capacity. More than anything, it would probably make me want to wear it more. So we'll be back next week with another episode of Watch Talk, where we're highlighting our 5 favorites of next week. Until then, be sure to subscribe so that you can stay up to date on all of our latest content. Until then, we'll see you next time.